is excited about trick-or-treating or trunk-or-treating or whatever we're going to be doing tomorrow. But exactly 24 years ago tomorrow, my oldest daughter, Christina Metcalf, was born, so she'll be celebrating her birthday. So if you know her, if you love her, if not, just go and shout out to her on my Facebook page. Wish her a happy birthday. She's one of the four that makes being a dad easy. So happy birthday, one day early, Christina. Good morning and welcome to Urshel Speaks, where our mission is to have the right words at the right time to change the world. And what the world needs now is not just another boring talk show or opinionated podcast. So our purpose is to speak life, wisdom, and opportunity so we all can do our part in making this world a better place. Our first segment today is brought to you by Lean Evolution, revolutionizing the world one process at a time through Lean Six Sigma training. Okay, so a lot to talk about, a lot going on, and a few things on my mind. We're going to discuss a blog post I put out this week in a couple of the segments today, but there's a whole lot happening. And I know Mark, our producer's over there, and I have just a little bit of radio trivia this morning. So something happened 80 years ago today on the radio in America. Any guesses as to what that was? Anybody out there in radio land? 80 years ago today? The War of the Worlds radio broadcast was October 30th, 1938. Now, I wasn't actually listening at the time because it was a few years before I was born, but I have listened to it, and I just think that is such an. I remember listening to it when I was a kid after hearing what had happened, and close to 1 million people in this country heard that broadcast and were panicking because some of them tuned in late and they didn't realize that this was young Orson Welles, who was a director, I believe, wrote and directed this, and so they didn't catch the very beginning, so that they didn't realize this was a dramatic presentation on the radio. So they turned on the radio and they heard that Martians had invaded the Earth and that there were some gas explosions and all of this stuff, and people, excuse me, people across the country were panicking because they thought we had been invaded by Mars. That was 80 years ago today, and showed the power of the airwaves, and had to be pretty funny, pretty exciting. Excuse me. I don't know if they were doing ratings back then, but I tell you what, that probably broke the charts for everything. I can imagine everyone picking up their party line telephones and calling people and saying the Martians are coming, the Martians are coming. And so that was just a little bit of radio trivia. It goes back.
So I was just reading in this because that's totally never even thought about that, right? So 80 years ago, in 1938, there were a couple of things that were happening. There was 63,000 people were left homeless from a Long Island hurricane that hit 40-foot waves.
Wow.
This day, 80 years ago. Orson Welles' dramatization of The World of the Worlds was radio program. Caused panic when their broadcast was more like news, breaking story. Most of the world cheered when Germany's Max Schmeling was defeated by a knockout in the first round by great Joe Louis for the heavyweight championship.
Yeah, yeah.
So you got one side of the country, 40-foot waves. You got a radio broadcast going on, and at the same time, people are listening to a knockout and trying to listen to War of the Worlds.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Drama.
Yeah, absolute drama, and all by the power of radio, which is amazing, and probably the most powerful, obviously the most powerful media at the time.
What's interesting is the top three things that were of 1938. You'll get a kick out of this. Average cost of a new house.
$6,000.
$3,900.
Oh, wow. Okay. I must have been thinking Plano.
Average wage per year.
$8,000. Wow.
$1,730.
Wow.
And then, last but not least, what do you think the cost of gas for a gallon of gas was?
6 cents.
You're closer on that one, but it's 10 cents.
10 cents. Got it.
And their rent was $27 a month on the average.
Man.
Oh man, let's go back.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't want to go back.
No, I like our technology.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, tell you what, it's been that was 1938. We've had quite a week since we last talked in our country, and we're gonna jump on some of those things. And we're gonna hit them a little bit hard, but yeah, a lot has happened since our last Tuesday being here. As we're just getting this show going and getting ramped up, and we're already lining up some great guests from around the country that are going to be calling in. Some of them will be in the studio, so we're getting a good list of people that are going to definitely add. If you're a business owner, it's going to be great for you to be tuning in. If you're a human, it's going to be even better. Most of our listeners are, in fact, human, so we're proud of that. So we're going to have a lot of great people to come and talk to you that you'll be able to interact with, and then we're going to be backing all of this up, and you'll be able to find more resources, more conversation, and engage with us on the other platforms, on our blog, and on our social media. So, so since the last time we talked, man, we've had mail bombings being sent all over the place, and they caught that guy, and he seems to be unique and special. People being shot in Kroger, in the grocery store. Again, just another case of, there's I don't know if there's a thin line or a broad line between stupidity and criminality and these things that are happening. And then, the massacre in the synagogue in Pittsburgh. And so many things that are happening that dominate the news space. But at the same time, we always want to make sure that, depending on where you get your source of information from, and there's a lot of good places, and maybe we'll talk about that. We'll talk about, where we're digesting the information that we're filling our head with and that we're using to gauge how we feel about the day, how we feel about ourselves, because that's important. In my in my successful journey that I'm on right now to shed about 30 to 40 pounds is what my goal is. Get back down to my fighting weight. All right. Get back down probably at around 185. It's going to be a big jump. One of the things that is obvious, I can work hard. I can put the time in the gym. I can run. I can get on a heavy bag and speed bag in my garage, and I can go like a machine, right? And just go to work, right? Feel like I'm Joe Louis knocking out Max Smelling, right? I can do all of that work, but the reality is what I put in my body is going to have at least 80% of the impact on what happens as far as the health of my body, how healthy my body is, what my body's age is, and also how much I can lose weight, how much I can burn fat. A lot of it has to do with what I'm putting in, not just the work that I'm putting out physically with my body. So you take that and apply it to your emotional life. Apply it to how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your day. What are you putting in? What is the diet of information? What is the diet of motivation? What is the diet of inspiration that you have coming into your life on a day-to-day basis? I saw a brief part of an interview. I think it was, I don't know if Oprah has a show called Fix My Life, or if that was just like a segment or something like that. And she was talking with Will Smith. And, and Will Smith is, he was a rapper and an actor. And I don't know if this guy's going to run for president one day, but I know he's doing all types of stuff on the internet that is extremely motivational, extremely powerful. If you listen to it and you hear some of his stories and some of his examples and things that he's saying. But she was talking to him and giving him some advice. And one of the things, she talked about, morning routine, what do you do? And he said he gets up and, he grabs his phone and social media. And she said, absolutely not. She says, I get up and the first thing I do is I'm thankful. I take some time. I look at nature and I'm thankful for what I have. I'm thankful for the opportunities. I'm thankful for the people in my life. And I start my day off with gratitude. And I was like, wow, I mean, say what you want. She's actually been able to accomplish a few things and amass a tremendous amount of wealth, and doing, some amazing things with her life and with her money. And so I just thought that was really good advice. And part of the advice that I've started to practice myself is getting up in the morning. And the first thing is that we all have so much to be thankful for, especially if we live in this great country. So, in all of these things that we're hearing, my point is, what I want to remind everyone is we have to take charge of the diet of information. We have to take charge of the diet of inspiration and motivation that we receive in our life. And it's a lot better if you start your mornings out, not just listening to Urshel Speaks, because we're going to give you some of that inspiration, motivation, and good information. But make sure that when you get up and you have that time before you have to start interacting with the world around you, that you're putting something good in your body, just like your diet. You say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Well, how about your mental breakfast? How about what you're putting inside your body to prepare yourself for the day? Tons of things out there like the Miracle Morning and stuff like that that may give you some advice on that. But we're going to start just here in this segment. And I'm going to read you something that I came across last week. I wrote a blog on it. I want you to go and check out the blog and comment, and let's have a discussion there. I'm going to introduce it now, and then we're going to come back in the third segment, and we're going to really talk about this a little bit more. But this is a quote from Albert Einstein. And it says this: a human being is part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to the affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening the circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. And so the part that jumped out to me when I heard this quote, and then I went and read the full context of what he was saying here, is that we as humans are experiencing an optical delusion of consciousness. I love that phrase. It jumped out at me and started speaking. I immediately grabbed my computer, started reading, and then immediately started typing, because I think that this is it. I think this is part of it. I think it's the problem that we have. It's not new. It's just realistic. But I also think that it genuinely speaks to the solution, if we understand, if we take this in and really allow ourselves to accept the fact that, I have this delusion that I see. I had a friend that used to say, what are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes, right? Are you just going to believe what you see in front of you? Or are you just going to let me tell you whatever I want to tell you? He used to say that as a joke. But there's a reality that we have a level of delusion when it comes to a worldview. And I'm not going to get too much into it here, because I really want to chomp on it and dissect it a little bit in our third segment today. But we live in a world that is dictated to us, or our thoughts, our perceptions, everything based on what we see in our circumstances. And that's natural. There's nothing wrong with that. We just need to understand a little bit more about that, because that will help us and help us to have more of a worldview, especially for a lot of people who don't travel outside of the country and things like that. And then maybe, again, only get their sources of information from a few limited places. So just chew on that a little bit. Let us get through this next segment, and then I want to talk about that a little bit more. And then I really want you to go check out the blog. It was just a little bit of a tease of a blog. I'm going to break it out into a few different segments and really want to talk about that a little bit more. And one more thing, also that I shared on my Facebook page, and this is something that's a little personal for me, but based on the shootings in Pittsburgh at the synagogue, That really, is just one of those things. It's a place of worship. Doesn't matter what your faith is. It's a place where families gather to exercise some of the things that are most important for them. So there's a hashtag out there, and there's a movement that's going to be going on a little bit on the November 2nd and 3rd. So that's this weekend, and it's called hashtag Show Up for Shabbat. And Shabbat is SHABBAT. And so it's going to be people of Jewish faith and people not of Jewish faith around the country gathering at synagogues, just as a point of solidarity to say that, we stand together. No one should be afraid to go to a place of worship or a place of gathering with their families, and we're going to stand together and we're not going to be afraid. And one of the things that I want to talk about that, and we'll kick that around a little bit more, is one of the things that I believe that we need to do, and I'm going to say this before we go to break, is that we have to stop only caring about the things that we care about. As a nation, as a people, we talk about all the stuff that's going on and where we want to be and what we believe about our country. We as individuals have to stop caring about only the things that we care about. We're going to come back after the break, and we're going to get a lot more into it. I probably should have prepared better and had some of that War of the Worlds clip. That would have been.
Well, I'd never heard of that. So when I was looking it up, I was just reading the comments, and then it didn't have much. There really wasn't a whole lot that happened
really?
on. In today, there was a couple, about 3 things in there, and it was the boxing that was going on that night, and it was the War of the Worlds, which they planned on that for hours, by the way.
Yeah.
And in 2 hours after the radio programs, people started to panic, and I was reading a little insert that certain neighborhoods were gathering outside to talk about, because it was probably one of the few times that America has heard drama, and nonfiction, fiction on the radio, thinking, wait a minute, how do you have drama on there? Isn't that real? He just said it.
Right.
He just told it and announced it.
Well, and the thing is, they did it like a newscast. So,
Right.
They had the shows,
It freaked everybody out.
but they did it just like a newscast. And coming to you, and I think they even started out with, we interrupt our regularly scheduled, dance music or whatever, to bring you this bulletin. And so they did it just like, it was Tom Brokaw coming on and announcing that, Kennedy had been shot or something. And so that was extremely, extremely powerful. And they did say at the beginning that it was a drama, but, everybody doesn't catch the very beginning or the intro. And some people might not even be paying attention or half listening. So I thought, but yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, I listened to it, and then they made a, I think before I listened to the radio broadcast, they made like a movie of it. I think it's a black and white movie years later. And so I saw that, and when I was a kid, back when I used to stay up and watch the Alfred Hitchcock show, which probably was a good evening.
I watched a little bit of that, but I never really got into that.
For whatever reason, I can't remember if it was exactly 10 o'clock or 10:30 that it came on.
I think 10:30.
Yeah.
It was after the news.
Yeah. And so I used to, for whatever reason, there was a whole period where I used to sit and watch that, and him come on and say, good evening.
Yeah, Mom used to get mad at me. I can't remember. There was like a couple of shows that I would watch, and one started at 11 o'clock. She didn't really care. As long as I was passing school, Mom would let me step as late as I wanted. But she's like, why are you always watching this show? And I forget what it was. It was kind of a dumb show. And I get up in the morning, and then the mornings were the best part.
Yeah.
Because it was, I don't know, depending on what time I got on there, but one, it was the Three Stooges. And then they had the 30-minute comedy hour or something. But part of that was the Three Stooges. So it wasn't just their show. It was like clips of theirs, but there was other things that happened in there.
Right.
I forgot what that was called. You'll get a kick out of this. Somebody brought in something the other day. It was an anniversary or something that had to do with Siegfried the Sea Monster.
Yeah. Sigmund
and the Sea Monster. Yeah. And I was like, And it's actually on Netflix. All right, coming back after this.
All right.
Radio.com. Join Andrew White each week for Kilroy's Conversation, a voice for veterans. Hear interviews from real veterans, businesses, and charities that are making a difference in our communities. Tune in every Thursday, 2 to 3 p.m. for Kilroy's Conversation, right here on KVGI Radio, live without limits.
All right. Yeah, tune in for Kilroy's Conversations. I love the fact that he's talking to real veterans and not those artificial veterans that are running around there. Although there is some stolen valor out there from time to time. You see some of these guys walking around in uniforms looking like Mussolini or something, medals on their forehead, all types of crazy stuff going on. But anyway, that's not us, and that's not what we're here to talk about. So much going on KVGI Radio. You need to go to kvgiradio.com. Download the app from the App Store or the Google Play Store. Download it, get it on your phone, get it on your computer, tune in, check out the list of shows, see what piques your interest, and then send the guys at KVGI. Send them an email, respond on Facebook. They stream most of the shows live. I think this one usually streams live on Facebook, so go. Give them some feedback. Let them know that you value the content, what's going on. And if you're a business out there and you want to advertise, you want to get connected with the community in a greater way, KVGI Radio is a great way to do that. They're always looking for sponsors and people to partner with the radio shows that are coming on. So kvgiradio.com, download the app, take us with you everywhere you go, and make sure that you're subscribing to Urshel Speaks, because we're going to be bringing it to your ear holes every single week. This segment is brought to you by Veteran Optimize. The mission at Veteran Optimize is to provide the mentoring, resources, and relationships to expedite the excellence of your existence. There are almost 22 million veterans in this nation. Can you imagine what it would be like when our nation's veterans are all optimized for impact? We can. All right. So, a little bit about some things that are going on. This segment, we're going to talk a little bit about military things in this segment. From time to time, Marija is on her way back from Dubai. She's been there for a couple of weeks. She sent me an email last week and said she didn't want to come back. She was having a great time, but then when we heard her on the radio, she was a little bit jet lagged, and she was going a little hard in the paint. So praying for her safe travels to get back here and continue to do the great things that she's doing. Some things that are going on. I came across an interesting thing that's going on, and that's contributing to something that we hear all the time, and hear lots of conversations about post-traumatic stress. And so there is a new culprit that is having an impact on active duty military. Study was done on men, young men in the military. And so there's a new culprit that's contributing to post-traumatic stress. And let's talk about it. This is a $21 billion industry in the U.S. alone, not worldwide. It's a $21 billion with a B industry in the U.S. that's having a negative short-term and long-term impact on young men in our military, especially coming back from deployment. And you know what it is? It's energy drinks. And they're cheap. They're readily available. They ship them out on deployment that can be bought. It's really cheap, doesn't impact the wallet a whole lot. But let me tell you a little bit about it. The authors of this study surveyed over 600 male infantry soldiers during a post-deployment period after the brigade combat team returned from a 12-month combat deployment in Afghanistan. Questions were designed to examine the association of energy drinks with sleep deprivation or insomnia, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress, alcohol abuse, aggressive behaviors, and fatigue. What the authors found was that over the course of the month leading up to the survey, more than 75% of soldiers consumed energy drinks. More surprising, however, was that 16% of the soldiers studied reported continuing to consume 2 or more energy drinks per day in the post-deployment period. A high energy drink use was classified as consuming 2 or more drinks per day, was significantly associated with those survey respondents who reported mental health problems, anger-related behaviors, and fatigue is what the authors found. Those consuming less than one energy drink per week reported those symptoms at a significantly lower rate. And so, here's again one of those things, because we hear the conversations, and I'm glad that we hear. I'm glad that there are organizations. I just talked with Derek Barr yesterday, who is the director locally of the PTSD Foundation. And they are focused on helping people that are struggling and dealing with issues like homelessness and things like that. I am excited and I'm happy to throw my support and my voice behind those who are focused in this area of helping with veterans. And these are active duty people. But there are so many things that contribute to this type of these types of challenges, and how it impacts people. And this, obviously we can talk about drug abuse and alcohol abuse and those sorts of things. But again, education is important. So sometimes what you put in your head will help what you put in your body. I think that seems to be a recurring theme through the show today. And so getting the right type of knowledge about what's going on and how these things are affecting. Because why would someone be drinking that many energy drinks? Well, obviously, when it's day on, stay on. I didn't drink coffee when I was in high school. My dad drank coffee, and I remember him telling me he started drinking coffee when he was in the military, when he was in the Army. And I didn't drink coffee when I went in the military, but guess what? By the time I was in a year and a half, and I was out there in 29 Palms, California, in the Mojave Desert out there down the road from Joshua Tree. And I was, running hard and running and gunning and trying to be a hard charging Marine and trying to kick it at night and do everything else and head out to Palm Springs and Riverside and then stand, my duty and do my work and school and all of that. Guess what? I started pounding coffee like it was water, more than I was drinking water. And I was doing it so that I could stay alert. I was doing it so that, I could have some energy and get those quick bursts. And to the point that it doesn't even affect me that way anymore. I like to drink coffee, but I drink it because I drink it. Doesn't keep me awake. And so these energy drinks have taken that to a whole nother level. And so people get, these shots of caffeine and sugar and everything else. And it's keeping them amped up. It's driving them. And, and there's lots of different things in them that, the little berry from Brazil that's in there that's supposed to, keep you amped up, keep you alert, and have other effects. Well, by pounding the stuff the way that it is, these reports are showing that this is also having an impact on those that are on active duty. And guess what? Those that are on active duty are eventually going to be what? They're eventually going to be veterans. They're eventually going to be out in the civilian workforce and doing what we believe the veterans are supposed to do, and that's win. So this is just one of those things. If you're out there listening, or if there's something that you do, if you pound these energy drinks to get through the day, I remember when I was working a couple of jobs and things like that. I was doing whatever I could to stay alert, so I didn't fall asleep driving and that sort of thing. Just one of those other things that we want to be aware of out there. One more thing that I want to talk about, and I just want to point you in the direction of this, and go check out a couple of websites and pay attention. So we are in election season. If you haven't noticed, maybe you've gotten some text messages on your phone. Maybe you've seen some yard signs here and there. Maybe you've heard some conversations. Maybe you've seen some debates. I hope you've seen some debates. I haven't seen as many as I would like. I feel like that's kind of a lost thing, but we'll get into that a little bit more as why people don't want to stand and have this public discourse and exchange ideas and opinions about what they believe and how they want to impact and how they want to bring about change. Well, maybe you've seen a bunch of that out there, and that we're, early voting is open now. November 6th is election day. It's the midterms. And so lots of activity, lots of talk going on about that. But there's something else specifically that I'd like to talk about in this segment where we focus a little bit more on veteran and military issues, is that there is a rising number of those who have served in our nation's military that are running for office. Conversely, we are at the lowest percentage that our country has ever been at for veterans serving in Congress and in the Senate. And so I think maybe one thing is probably kind of produced or precipitated the other is that since we have the lowest percentage of people in Congress, now it's only 1% of our nation's individuals that serve in the military. So it's not like the majority of people or even anywhere close to a majority of our nation's citizens actually serve. It's a very, very small percentage. But for those who have served and not only served, but many have served overseas, many have lived in other countries, many have participated in campaigns, wars overseas, and do have, as we would say, or as they would say to us in basic training, you're here to protect democracy, not practice it. You don't get a vote on what happens in your life, but now we have those people that come home, and now we're seeing record numbers of people, or I don't know if it's record numbers of people, but a rising number of individuals, men and women, conservative and liberal, Democrats, Republicans, across the board, that are running for office, and I think it's a great thing. I think we should have some good representation, both on the local levels and on the state and federal levels as well. And so a couple of websites that I want you to check out in regards to that. One that I've been looking at is called With Honor, and it's withhonor.org. And this is not a paid endorsement, but I don't mind sharing when I see something I think that has valuable information. It just With Honor is one of those that I've seen, and they just have a list of candidates, and they talk about what their platform is. They give you some profile on them, let you know when they served, where they served, branch of the military that they were in, and so you can go and find out some information again on the federal level. And another one is votevets.org. I'm not as familiar, but I did go through their website and look, and these are nonpartisan websites that are just promoting and supporting those veterans who run. Now, you may wonder from time to time, I get a lot of assumptions about what my political affiliation may or may not be. And so let me make that clear to you. I am not affiliated with a particular party. And I'll tell you why. And this is my personal opinion, which I have a right to have, and so do you, is that, I don't have a need to align myself with one party over the other party, especially in my opinion, in a two-party system. Because, I've heard commercials recently, vote straight Democratic ticket, vote straight Republican ticket. And you know what that says to me? What I hear when I hear that, turn your freaking brain off, right? Don't consider each candidate. Don't consider each issue. Don't worry about educating yourself. Don't worry about knowing exactly who you're voting for. My opinion is every person that's running for office and every one of required watching ought to be in this country. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and everybody ought to see Jimmy Stewart, just a regular guy. And this is what it was intended to be: representation of the people, by the people, and for the people, right? People that go and represent them and not their own interests or any other special interests. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it for now until I change my mind. But I don't really care about aligning with one party or the other, or one group or the other, because I think that everything that they say is right. Now, there may be a party or there may be a candidate that I lean much more to because of how I feel like they align with what I think may be the best decisions or values on this particular subject. But to say that I'm red or blue, I guess I'm as purple as they come when it comes to that, because I don't feel the same as everyone in either political party about anything. But that's what I like about these websites. They're not partisan websites, and there's a few more out there. These are just two. With Honor is one that I've kind of followed for a while and paid attention, and some of the people that we know, some of the people that I know that are running for office are on that website, and you can go find out about them. But the most important thing, I think, is to educate yourself. Make sure you know who's going on, who's running out there, what they're running on, what their stance is. And I'm not, a big person on, we got to go out and dig up everything, anything they've ever done in their life, and all of that type of stuff is not the biggest concern to me. Who are they? Who do they want to represent? And what do they stand on? What are their beliefs, and what are they willing to fight for? And that's what I love about veterans running for office. Is my general assumption is, when we meet some of these people who are veterans who have served, I'm going to start with the assumption that they're willing to fight for what they believe in, because they've already done that. They've already put their name on the line. And as we say in the Marine Corps, we signed up to help other people die for their country. And so we're committed to fighting for what we believe in and what we believe is right. And so my hope and my prayer for those veterans that are running, that do get elected into office, is that they are people of character, people of commitment, people who are willing to fight, willing to stand, and willing to represent the people that put them in office, because that's what I think is the most important thing. So, that's our political commentary, right down the middle, just like a fastball coming at you hot and heavy. And if you're not ready, it might fly past you, but that's all right. We're going to throw another one at you real soon. So go check out those websites, support those veterans if they align with what you think, what you believe, and maybe you need to throw your hat in the ring if you're a veteran and you want to see the change that you believe you fought for. All right, this is the end of our second segment. Now, when we come back for this third segment, the optical delusion of your consciousness.
for the entire family ages 6 and up. Americans always want to know who is the fastest. Find out for yourself at Cartland Performance Indoor Raceway. Family owned and operated at 10550 John W. Elliott Drive, Frisco, Texas. Zip code 75033. Find out more. Check us out online at cartland.com. Bring your family, bring your buddies, bring your company to Cartland Performance Indoor Raceway. Or check us out online, cartland.com.
All right, here we are, and we have already made it into the third segment of our show today. Just got a message from Marija, and she's still over in Dubai, and she was going to be on, and I don't know what happened. I have an app that she was going to be able to call in on, and something was wrong with the login, so we couldn't get her in. But hey, Marija, thank you for listening. Can't wait to have you back in the studio and back here in the United States. You can't continue to play hooky on the United States of America just because you're having such a great time in Dubai. But I know it's been a great vacation for you and some time over there with your husband. So what's up? Looking forward to you coming back. Safe travels. We'll be praying for you till we know that you are safe back in Little Lamb. All right. So we're coming to you once again live from the Wakanda studios of KVGI Radio in Frisco, Texas. And so if you are checking KVGA Radio live on Facebook, in the show, in the comments, I just posted a link to this blog that I wrote on this this quote from Albert Einstein in the Optical Delusion. And make sure you're hearing that because, you know, sometimes our brains hear what we're used to hearing. So we're used to hearing and seeing optical illusions, what we see with our eyes. But the optical delusion of our consciousness. And so I want to break this down and talk about this. I want you to go read the blog. Again, it's not super exhaustive because I wanted to begin a conversation. We're going to talk about this in different areas. And so it's probably going to be a 3 or 4 part series on the blog that I want to provoke some conversation and some dialogue and you know, and maybe even heat some people up. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with provoking a little emotion in conversation because, you know, that's where our heart is. And if we can get our hearts engaged and get our brains engaged at the same time, then maybe we can start touching people's souls and their spirits and bring about the change that I feel like that's what we're supposed to do. I'm not interested in staying the same, and I'm not interested in being a part of people and groups and tribes who just want to be the same. This is who we are. This is who we've always been, and this is who we're always going to be. Well, good for you. That's just not who I am. Because I think that anything left to itself naturally by nature and by law decays, right? And so you leave anything, you leave food, you leave anything out by itself, it just begins to break down and decay unless you feed it, unless you put things into it that are going to help it grow, make it better. And so that's what I want to do. I want to be a part of helping people grow with their minds. So here we go into what Mr. Einstein was saying here is that, and so just to break it down without all of his language, basically he's saying all of us simply this. Listen, we're the sum total of what we see and what we experience, right? I talk the way that I talk. I think the way that I think. I feel the way that I feel based on just a few simple factors. I mean, there's some DNA that I got from my parents. There's the socialization that's based on where I come from, where I grew up, the things that I experienced, the things that I learned, who I learned them from, the things that I've observed, and the things that have impacted me intellectually, emotionally, spiritually throughout my life. And so you take all those things, you pack them into 48 years of existence, and bam, this is who I am. Bam, that's who you are. And there's ways to impact that. There's ways to change that. You know, one is, you know, the books you read, the things that you put into your head, that you choose to digest, not just the things that happen to you. That's one of the things, you know, I used to, when I would be working with people about, child rearing and working with their teenagers and things like that. I just, would say, listen, as parents, you need to decide whether your kids are going to be weeds or whether they're going to be a lawn, right? And so if they're going to be weeds, it just kind of means they're going to grow up however they grow up, and you're just going to try to survive this, 16 to 18 to 40-year period of them becoming, independent adults, depending on how that works for you, because you're just kind of letting them happen. Or they're going to be a well manicured lawn that you're going to feed and nurture. You're going to establish their boundaries, and you're going to make sure that they're healthy. And you're going to, make sure that the weeds don't grow and there aren't big ant piles over here. That's a choice that we're all going to make. So all of those things are things that we don't control. They happen to us. They're put on us through our existence and growing up. And so books are a great way to say, you know what, this isn't just about what I experienced. This isn't just about where I grew up or where I went to school or what neighborhood or what part of the country that I grew up in. With books, that's a great thing. And of course we have, now the internet now as well, and other mediums that we can go and grab information that is external. It's extra curricular to the life that is forced upon us. And so we can add to ourselves. But other than that, we have this delusion that what we experienced is what there is. And our interpretation of what we've experienced is what there is, right? And so it's not just, okay, this is what I've experienced, this is what I went through. So, for example, I talk a little bit about this briefly in the blog, is, one day I was on a bar stool, and don't judge me, because I like bar stools, they're comfortable. And I was on a bar stool, and it was a familiar bar stool, a bar stool that I sat on frequently. And talking about stories and, doing this whole thing. And then there was a guy who was like, man, that didn't happen to you. That's not real, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, yeah, no, actually that did, so we had this little conversation, and he probably already sipped too much wine. Great guy. Love him. And, but here's the thing, the experiences of my life, they're exactly what they are. And so, one of the things that we talk about in the blog is that, you know what? It's about me. It's in my life. It's about me. It's about what I've experienced. It's about what, and in your life, it's about you, right? It's about how you feel about things. It's about how you interpret things. It's about how things have impacted you. It's about your strengths, your weaknesses. It's about your fears and your insecurities. It's about your challenges and your successes. I mean, all of that is all very, very, very real, right? And no one has the right or the ability to challenge that or question that or in any way delegitimize the reality of your existence and your appearance, your circumstances, right? And how you feel about those things. It's very, very legitimate, right? And, I remember they used to say, perceptions are reality. If someone perceives something a certain way, it is their reality. But with that being said, it is about me. It is about Urshel. It is about how I feel. It is about what I think. It is about how I've interpreted the circumstance and the realities of my life. But check this out. It's not all about me. And that's the difference, right? It's not all about me. It's not only about me, because a bunch of us can be in the same room and experience the same thing and have a different impact. And again, based on everything that's been packed into your years of existence, right? You may feel, receive, impact. I mean, it's as simple, again, if we get back to our crazy partisan politics that we have, one of the things that I do as either entertainment or torture for myself is when certain things happen in the news cycle, I will go to 3 different websites, sometimes 4 different websites, and you can already guess 2 of them without even thinking about it. And I will go to those websites to see how that exact same circumstance is reported on from one site to the next, right? And one day I might tell you the site that I think is the most factual and unbiased that I go to. That's not going to happen today. Some of you might freak out, but I'll go and see how it, and of course, now that's based on something totally different. But then you put us all in the same room and we all experience the same thing. We all see the same thing. It all happens to us in the same moment. And what I have to understand is that no matter how real, no matter how impactful that is for me, it's not all about me. It's not only me. Now, you can take that down on a micro level between me and the other 5 people in the room, or you can take that on a macro level, and you can make those judgments based on one part of the country versus another part of the country. You can say this country versus this country, or this continent, and this continent. We take any issue that you want to, any issue you want to discuss. Take global warming, and talk about that as someone that lives in North America or Central America, or someone that lives on the North Pole, or someone that lives in the plains or in the desert, or wherever. All of the exact same issue, the exact same data, the exact same facts are going to be interpreted and felt by someone else in a different circumstance, a different way. So what's the point of talking about all of that? What's the point of even pointing out this optical delusion of our consciousness? Well, I said from the beginning that I think this is it. This is the problem that we have. This is the challenge that we have. This is why people can look at the same situation, the same circumstance, and I'm telling you, on this show and in these conversations, I'm willing to talk about the difficult things as long as we can have a dialogue. I want to talk about the challenging things. We have so many things that are polarizing, and I think that many of them are polarizing simply because of one fact alone. And it's this issue right here, this optical delusion of consciousness, where people have said, I am going to interpret these facts based on what I think, how I feel, what I've experienced, my religious beliefs, my political affiliations, my whatever that belongs to me. And that's what I'm going to stand on. And that's what I'm going to fight for. And that's okay. But what's not okay is to assume that your reality, your truth, your understanding, your perspective is the only legitimate one out there. That's where the problem lies. That's why this is both the problem and the solution. Stand firm on what you believe and what you think and what you feel. Let that be your reality. But then open up your eyes, open up your ears, and most importantly, open up your heart and your brain to understand that, guess what? There's more to it. There's the reality that the words of Paul Harvey will forever echo in all of our brains if we're old enough to remember this guy. There is the rest of the story. You don't have all of it. I don't have the whole story. I don't have the only perspective. But if I allow the delusion based on what I've seen, what I've interpreted, if I allow that to preclude me from being able to show empathy to someone else's situation, being able to listen to them and their perspective and their viewpoint, that's where we begin to fail. Because at that point, I'm limiting myself. One of the things that I learned about music is in the terminology that no one has all of music, right? No one writes all of music. The best you can do is write a piece of music, right? And that piece may last for hundreds of years, but it's still just a piece of music. No one has it all, right? But we can all contribute to that. We can all sing. You ever notice that in a stadium, when everybody's singing and there may be 80,000 people, 150,000 people all singing the same song, you ever notice that there's no bad notes that you can hear? Now, if you take those 80,000 people and you have them all sing a solo, you're going to hear some painful stuff, right? I had a friend that used to say there's no such thing as a bad note, just poor choices in timing. But if you let everybody sing individually on a solo on a mic, you're going to hear some rough stuff. But when you take all those voices and you put them together, you get beautiful melody all the time, every single time. It never fails. What if we could do that with our thoughts? What if we could do that when it comes to these issues? What if we could put all the voices together? Some great, some professional grade, some should only be heard in the shower with the radio blaring and nobody else in the house. But when you put them all together, guess what? You're going to get a chorus of melody and harmony that no one can find fault in, because it includes everybody's voice. It includes the people sitting in the cheap seats. It includes the people sitting in the box seats. It includes the people standing on the sideline. And from all those different perspectives, all those voices come together, and it makes a beautiful song. It brings everyone together, and it has the ability not only to be heard from a long distance, but to move the hearts of those that hear it, especially the ones who are singing and hearing the voices of everyone else around them blending. My name is Urshel. This is Urshel Speaks. We're going to be back with you next week. Go check out the blog. Let me hear your comments and your thoughts. Let's talk about it.